All right. Welcome into another week of the NBC Sports Live College Football Betting Q&A. I'm Brad Thomas here with Vaughn Dalzell and Eric Froton. We thank everyone for joining us. Let's kick things off. Eric, you smashed that alt line. I'm excited because as our resident college football player prop expert, you are putting your expertise to the test and betting more alt lines on those player props.
Yeah, well, we've seen, a significant kick up in terms of the past, I would say this week, really. So the first 4 weeks, it had been, a fairly traditional market. But gosh, we've seen these books start putting up the alt lines, which in other words, they're more, traditionally called ladder plays, which allows you to, if you think a player is going to go far over their designated line, it allows you to say, all right, well, I can get the minus 115, minus 125 odds on, say, 50 yards. Why don't we use an actual example? Jack Plummer last night, 245 and a half was his standard line, which he crushed. And I felt really good about it because, this is Jeff Brom's quarterback, and they are one of the most prolific passing offenses traditionally from year to year. So Jack Plummer went out. And there were two other options in terms of his ladders. He could have gone 275 plus, which earned you, I believe, a plus 190, as opposed to, that 245 is going to get you a minus 125, or 300 plus, which was almost, I think it was plus 390 is right around where I got it. So he hit the over 275, didn't quite reach the 300, but that's still almost 2-to-1 money you're getting there.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of opportunities as the season goes on for us to really accentuate some of these plays, because especially with those high volume passing quarterbacks, I do like the opportunity to hit those 300 marks. And we're going to have a couple today to talk about. So that is something that for all of us, I would strongly recommend tapping into that market now that it's become more readily available.
I'll say this, piggybacking off it, Eric, I put out my sleeper play, right? Use code Brad Thomas, selfless plug. If you're on sleeper, get up to $100. But I put out a sleeper play, BRADTHOMAS. I put out a sleeper play, and beginning of the week, I took Plummer over. And every time I take a player prop, I literally just wait for your article, and I'm just like, please be on the same one. Please be on the same one. And I saw you were on it, and I don't normally double dip. I triple dipped on Plummer. I took him on Underdog, I took him on Sleeper, and I took him on the sports book. It was a beautiful cash.
The full triple crown, Brad?
Yes, man. Yeah.
Nice. A profitable venture. Right. Love starting off the week with a big hit like that. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the chat was also in there. We got Xavier Jones and Connor in there saying they all hit this as well.
Yes,
so
let's go.
We got to keep these good times rolling, my guys. And yeah, you guys were excited in the group chat last night. I'm still in another state. This is the third state I've been in a week. And I still don't have player props. And I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, I'm shamelessly just watching on the side. But my topic today is a fun one, guys. All right. Of the 5 teams that are favored to make the college football playoff, 4-team playoff, who is the one team that is most likely to miss? Or whether it's the odds or their schedule, you got to give me the pick, and these are the teams: Georgia, FSU, Michigan, Texas, and Ohio State. Looks like Ohio State got clipped there at the end. Let me fix that up for you guys. But they're at plus 130. So by far the worst there. What are you thinking, Brad?
I don't want to go chalk, right? Because chalk is so easy with Ohio State. Florida State has a pretty easy schedule to win out, but I'd probably go Ohio State. They're a really good team, like really good. And being at Notre Dame really made me realize that. But like they were kind of stifled by that Notre Dame defense. And I don't know what the numbers say, but from the Brad Thomas power rankings of defenses, I'd probably have Notre Dame somewhere around 8, maybe 9. And I think I have Michigan around 2 or 3. So it's going to be a lot tougher to play at the big house than it is at Notre Dame Stadium. So if they lose that game there, they have a really tough road to make it to the playoffs with how many good teams there are in college football this season.
Eric, what say you?
Yeah, that's a great point, Brad, especially at the plus 130 money, because if we're going to be looking at these look-ahead lines, like, do I want to sit here and tout Georgia minus 240? Not really. You know what I mean? If the time to bet Georgia was before the season, what has really changed since then, other than you're getting worse odds here? And Florida State minus 150, like you said, the path is there. They went and they cleared it out. They're going to be in. But look, we want to go lay 1.5 money. I'm going to go Texas here. You know,
okay.
Pretty much even. You get a little bit. I mean, their defense, too, has been criminally underrated. They have been smothering teams. Look what they did to Baylor. My gosh. I mean, but they held Alabama, given there are some flaws related to Jalen Milroe, you know, kind of his passing acumen. But look, you can't deny what they're doing. And Alabama went down there and shut down Ole Miss. Touchdown on the first drive and then locked it up. So with them beating a quality team like that and Texas, year 3, Sarkisian, everything sort of coming together, I'm going to go with the Horns.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I looked at the odds and I was feeling, you know, if you're looking outside these, Oklahoma was certainly at like +200 to win the Big 12. So that's a team that could probably overthrow Texas here. So I'd probably roll with you too, Eric. I would say Texas is an odd team out, but Ohio State, I don't have much confidence in them. I'm trying to attend the big game this year between Michigan and Ohio State, and I'll be on the Michigan side. So I lean the last 4 and 5 here, Texas and Ohio State, to be the 2 teams knocked out. I actually have more confidence in Florida State than both of those. And coming into the season, that was not the case. So 1 month has gone by, and our opinions have changed slightly. We'll be revisiting this situation here in a week or 2 to see how we feel. Brad, what's the first game we're talking about here? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, the first game, we're going to SEC, number 13, LSU. They're a 2.5-point favorite, traveling to Ole Miss, who's number 20 in the nation. Total set at 67.5. As I see Eric typing in the show sheet, I begin to smile because I really wanted to play this and I didn't have enough confidence. But first, let me just talk about the game. I think this is a little bit of a weird line, right? We've seen what LSU has done so far this season, yet they're only a 2.5-point favorite, which means they'd probably be about a 3.5-point favorite on a neutral field. I thought it'd be probably bring them in here closer to 3.5. I'm going to pass. There's too many question marks in LSU secondary for me to go to want to oppose Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin in a bounce back spot. But Vaughn, give me your play. Then I want to hear Eric's because I do have something to add to Eric's play if he doesn't end up saying what I'm going to say.
Yeah, this game is definitely interesting. And I like how you say you're kind of scared to back them in this spot because that's normally the spots that I like to back teams when everyone's feeling squeamish on them. So my lean is actually a look ahead to our money line sprinkle segment, and that is Ole Miss, baby. So we are going to back them in this spot here. And it's because you said the secondary, Brad. LSU's defense ranks outside of top 100 in success rate, bottom 10 nationally in passing down success rate and explosiveness. And we know Ole Miss's offense is explosive. They run a lot of plays, and that's what they want to do. And, you know, I love my trends. This one, it goes back pretty far, but I found an interesting number. Since 2005, Ole Miss has been one of the most profitable underdogs in the country as a top 15 opponent. They're 28-14 in that span, including 15-8 at home. So when they're playing top 15 teams, they are great as a home underdog. And the last time they were home dog against LSU, it was 2021. Ole Miss won by 14. Give me Ole Miss here in this spot, gentlemen. What do you like, Eric?
Yeah, well, I'm going against what I did last week. If you remember last week, I took the under on Jackson Dart's rushing yardage because, again, they were playing the aforementioned Alabama. And they snuffed them out pretty good because that is a heck of a defensive front, and they were harassing them all day. That being said, as discussed, we're playing LSU this week, and I can't unsee what I saw last week against Arkansas. I mean, if Sam Pittman doesn't flub the closing stretch, that game's over. They lose. They shouldn't have won that game. I feel bad for the Arkansas faithful, but LSU defense has been exposed, and it is not what I think I was expecting coming into the season. How Perkins moving off ball. Their secondary, it's been a sieve. I mean, you get KJ throwing for 290 on you. I think that Jackson Dart is going to be able to do his trademark scrambling. We're going to see more RPOs, and that this is going to be a shootout of a game, in my opinion. I think we're going to see this go, and it's going to go. I'm gonna back Dart against an LSU front that I don't think is going to be able to match what Alabama did to Ole Miss.
When I saw you adding this, I was actually handicapping Riley Leonard's rushing yards, right? I wanted to see if I was going to fade him. The number came out way lower than I thought. I thought they were going to drop another 68. Number came out at 45. But when I was doing my research for Riley Leonard, I saw that the rush rate for Jackson Dart was like top 3 in the country, which is like alarming to not take his over against a team who doesn't particularly get too much pressure on the quarterback. They're getting so little pressure on the quarterback that they're trying to change Harold Perkins' position from the they're trying to move Harold Perkins back to what he does best. They moved him early in the beginning of the season. Now they're moving him back because they realized like they have no one who creates chaos, no one who creates trouble on the defensive line. I'm gonna tell you on that.
Tony, why do you want to have Harold Perkins out there guarding,
exactly
coverage? Oh, let's drop him in the zone. It's like, no, you're gonna bring him because they're good up the middle with Wingo and Mason Smith, but like their edges, it's not the same as last year, losing BJ Ojolari, losing Ali Gay, major contributors, and they have yet to replace them.
Let's go with number 24, Kansas, at number 3, Texas. Texas laying a big number, 16.5. Total set at 61.5. Eric, just go ahead and do the honors here. I think you have a ladder for this one as well.
I will do the honors. And you know what? I put this ladder out yesterday in the column, and surprisingly, I've seen this kind of disappear a little bit for me on Mr. Ewers. I was very disappointed to see that. However, I still like the 266.5 over. My gosh, Kansas. What do you think Kansas does? Kansas breeds shootouts. It's what they live to do. I have no confidence in their defense particularly. And as stated, I really am pretty bullish on Texas. It's in Austin. And Quinn Ewers has shown that he's been dealing lately. And I think you'll have a team that can put a little pressure on him, unlike Baylor. I do think that we're going to see, hopefully we get 20 out of Kansas, which would be perfect. And then that allows Texas to go and put up, 42, 45. And that's what I think we're heading for here. So I'm going to take the over 266.5 on his passing yards.
Love it. Correlated play. I'm on Xavier Worthy over 59.5 receiving yards. They have allowed basically an 80-yard receiver in every game. The explosive play rate allowed to wide receivers is just way too high. And I have Quinn Ewers. I took Quinn Ewers on my on Prize Picks. And if I'm going to take a quarterback who I think is going to throw for 300 yards, which I think you should play the 300 on another book, Shop With Your Lines. I think you can get up to plus 190. I have to go with this play. He's been their number 1 receiver, number 1 in targets, number 1 in receptions, number 2 in routes run. And the only reason he's not number 1 in routes run is just because of some of the blowouts they've had. So let me kick this one to Vaughn.
Yeah, I think Worthy has been awesome. Before I take over here with my lean in the next game, Cannon wants to know any Kansas player props you guys looked as well. Is there anyone you leaned or stayed away from in this spot?
I would say that I was skeptical of Devin Neal today. I didn't play him, but Highshaw has established himself as a quality RB2. I think he's had a touchdown in all but one game, and I think he had 2 in his first. So I do think we'll see kind of a shared backfield situation. And Texas, I mean, in terms of run defense, ranked 17th in the nation, according to my numbers, posting a 30.5% success rate. That's 6th in the country overall, averaging 1 point per drive. That's top 10 in the country as well. This Texas defense is no joke. They're last year, they were as good as it gets up the middle when it comes to defending the run. I think that you're going to see a little bit of the Jalen Daniels more probably running. I do have interest in Jalen Daniels. I believe his ladder play, forgive me, at 50. I'll get that later. I don't have it on here, but I was actually very intrigued by his rushing alt line because I do think that they're going to need creativity out of him.
Yeah. I
mean, he's going to get pressure. Obviously, he's going to take some heat. But look, they're going to have to get out of the box. His 50-yard ladder is plus 550. So if I was
getting sacked a lot today,
would you?
I know, man.
I
know he's going to.
I feel like they set this line. They set this line like so low because like I think they baked in a lot of the sack yards already. Like it was 23.5.
Yeah.
So
is that something you're interested in? Like even just playing there, or would you just?
Well, here's the thing. Am I interested in it just as a standalone play? Yeah, probably not. But look, if I'm doing the Sprinkle.
You want to take the 50.
Toss 20 beans, win 110. Well, I think stranger things have happened. That being said, it's not Kansas, but dude, Jonathan Brooks. Mea culpa here. I had him at under 85.5 last week. Wrong. I thought that we'd see more of CJ Baxter since he had, he's been practicing. Good reports from him out of camp. But man, Jonathan Brooks, he's climbing up the NFL draft charts for me. He had a phenomenal game last week. And you're playing a soft Kansas front. If I'm going with another one, like a ladder, I think it's got to be on that, the Texas side. 125 plus rushing yards is plus 360. Like he hit that last week. I don't think that's out of realm of possibility at all against these defense. So that would be my proclivity, and I'm leaning under on Devin Neal because of Texas run D.
I like those a lot, and I think the running game is going to be very important here for Texas too. Obviously, Quinn Ewers should have his day, but last year the reason why Kansas ran away with this game was Bijan Robinson. He's not here anymore. If you guys didn't know that, watching the show, he's out, probably winning Offensive Rookie of the Year award in the NFL. But he had 223 yards and 4 touchdowns in that matchup against Kansas. Texas won 55-17. But oddly enough, Kansas is terrible against the spread at home against Texas. But at Texas, they're 5-1 ATS in the last 6 meetings. And those are counting the really bad Kansas teams where the line was probably inflated a little bit in Texas' favor. Now with Texas being number 3 overall, I could only look at Kansas here or pass. It would be rock, chalk, Jayhawk. Even if it's a backdoor cover, I feel like they'd probably be the right side here, especially because we talked about Jalen Daniels. His dual threat ability, I think, could be the difference in keeping the cover here. For our chat quickly, Xavier, we did have Xavier Worthy props. Brad said the over 59.5 receiving yards there. But you should listen to Brad on that pick, but not the next pick. All right, because we are bringing our pizza bet back. Notre Dame at Duke. And I have the well capper in my corner. He's patting me on the back when I said, if I'm betting this game, I'm taking Duke plus 5.5. Before we break down this game in particular, you and I, Brad, head to head, I want to ask you guys, how long did it take you guys to realize Notre Dame only had 10 defenders on the field when Ohio State won the game?
They had it in back-to-back plays. I didn't know at all until I started watching in the morning.
Yeah. You understand, there's a lot going on.
Both
sidelines for that play, guys, Like, everything is happening right now. We're asking Brutus questions on the sidelines.
Our phones are acting up. We're like, our hearts are racing. Our legs are cramping up. We're like tapping the dudes on our shoulder like, yo, watch this.
We were hanging out with Ryan Day's best friends. A guy who actually – Ryan Day is a Northeast guy. I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Massachusetts. And Matt Casano, who is a former standout quarterback at Central Catholic High School, who actually I pitched against in high school. Dad, a high school legend in Massachusetts. He's sitting there on the sidelines. I'm talking to him, and he's like Ryan Day's best friend. And we're talking to the guys. They're going crazy when it happens. Everything's happening. We put out the video on social where, like, I'm on the field as that happens, that last play. I had to relive that moment in the show.
Yeah, that was, oh my God. Like, it's giving me chills thinking about it. Like,
I just got run over by the Ohio State offensive line because I'm out there like, okay, we gotta record this because I'm media. I turn around and 75 is coming right at me.
We go on the field and the refs go, you guys need to get off the field. The game's not over yet.
But everyone else was there. We waited everyone else go.
We did. Like, we weren't first. We waited until everyone rushed. And, like,
we weren't last either.
We were not. That was, oh my God.
I was watching that game on TV and was thinking, like, you guys are about to witness one of the most memorable Notre Dame and Ohio State football moments in the history of both programs. And I was really pulling it for it to be the Notre Dame side since you guys were at the home team.
Yeah, we wanted the field storming. We wanted to be in the middle of the field storming. Is what we were hoping for. But hey, it happens how it happens. And we were on the Ohio State side and got to dap up, Day's best friends and those guys and hang out with them. So that was cool.
And with all that hype now and all that die down, Ohio State obviously pretty amped up probably to continue their season. But Notre Dame's like, oh, we can't lose again or it's over for us. And that puts a lot of pressure on the team. I'm taking Duke, who are, they beat Clemson. We agree Clemson's not as good as we thought they would be or as we expected them to be. Notre Dame, Now they lost to Ohio State. How many times did we say on the show already, guys, that Ohio State may not be as good as we thought they'd be entering the season? And then they beat Notre Dame, who we had very high expectations. So we're kind of figuring ourselves out here with these teams. But Duke, in my opinion, haven't allowed anybody to score more than 14 points so far this season. Terrific defense. Riley Leonard, mobile quarterback. Notre Dame has to really battle with themselves, Brad. They have to stay focused, not let what happened to them in the previous game get them down, because if they lose again, the college football playoff is out of the question. Their whole season becomes now just getting a nice bowl game, which is what Notre Dame's season is almost every year. So give me the Blue Devils. Home dogs. They might win.
This is by no means me comparing the two teams and the two quarterbacks. I'm not going to be that disrespectful. I'm comparing the amount of pressure a team can get on a quarterback. I think that them playing against North Carolina State prepares them for this test of having the dual threat quarterback who can hurt you, who's really athletic, but also having a defensive line that can get pressure on the quarterback. I'm taking Notre Dame minus 5.5. When I was handicapping this game, it originally was going to be a lean for me. I can't write an article, which you can find on NBCsports.com. I can't write an article, put a play out, and only call it a lean. So I went and I actually placed the bet. I'm on Notre Dame minus 5.5. And the reason is, if we were talking about who's the better quarterback, right? We probably would want Riley Leonard before we want Sam Hartman in terms of dynamics. He's a more dynamic quarterback. But when I'm talking about I'm going into a tough environment on the road, I want Sam Hartman. Because Sam Hartman can make every throw on the field, even the downfield passes. And then when we talk about what's Duke's weakness, stopping the run. Right now, Duke has a PFF defensive rush grade of 64.6, 111th in the country. Will Shipley ran for over 100 yards against them. UConn and Northwestern only ran the ball a few times and still had success. And the biggest issue were the big chunk runs. I think that if Notre Dame can continue to pound the rock, they're going to have no other choice, Duke, but to load the box, and that's going to free Sam Hartman up. I was a little worried with the play calling in the Notre Dame-Ohio State game, but I get it. Ohio State's secondary is really good. But this is the only thing that scares me. Is Ohio State's secondary better than Duke's? And I don't know. I don't know if that's true. So we're going to need things to go our way in terms of gameplay. We're going to need Estime to really be a dog on the field. But I had this closer to 6.5. And I wouldn't be at all shocked to see Duke run into a buzzsaw here. And I don't want to be the guy who discredits anything that Elko has done. He's turned this program around. You can't control who you play at the beginning of the season. But they've looked good against the opponent despite the caliber of the opponents they've played. Yeah,
I'm with you. And, I'll say I think it's going to be a close game no matter what. Like, whoever wins, it's going to be a very small margin, like 3 to 7 points, 10 at the very most for a team. But Notre Dame has won 29 straight against ACC teams. This is going to end really soon. It's this season or next season. This is going to go on very much longer, my friends. So I also have that in my back pocket too, Brad, that I'm going to hold on to and just say, I called that. Even though I'm not officially calling it, I think Duke gets the cover. Notre Dame should win this game. Eric, what do you got?
1 second, real quick. Sorry to take that. This was a funny one. They loaded Estime at 89.5 as his rushing yards, which makes me think they're going to pound the crap out of the ball. So we'll see what happens.
Is he still leading the country in rushing yards? Because he was as of last week.
I think Martinez is.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, he should have a successful game on the ground. I think they're going to have to be creative getting
that line actually opened at like 86.5, and I've seen it at 93.5 in some places. Yeah. So it's I definitely like 86.5. Man, once it went to 93, I was like, yikes. I'm going to chill out on that. But I do have another running back that I got to play on here in this game. Jordan Bridge over Troubled Waters, running back. Duke under 43.5 rushing yards. And this is, it's just a numbers play here because for the first 4 games of the season, 4 games of the season, Jalen Coleman was out. And last year, it was a full 3-headed, a true Hydra running attack last year with all 3 of those guys pretty much rotating indiscriminately. With Coleman back, he only got 3 carries for 8 yards last week. But look, Waters only got 7. Jarquez Moore, I think he got 5. So with the full three-headed backfield, with a lot of obviously, quarterback runs that are designed because you got Riley Leonard back there, we don't really know how it's going to shake out. Throw in the fact you're going against Notre Dame's defensive front and, the nature of the, just sort of shifted backfield. Last week, Waters didn't touch this. He didn't come anywhere near it. I think he had like 20 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. Yep. He's effectively the short yardage back. So all those factors put it into play, quality of opponent, muddled backfield. I'm going to go under 43.5 rushing yards.
I like that play. Not everyone was going to be looking at Jordan Waters, to be honest with you. So it's probably a pretty sharp look to be targeting him in this matchup with all the stars. So I like that. And like I always say, unders are far more profitable. And my next bet is going to be an under, as always. So I'm going to lead us into the Big Ten game on NBC Peacock. We got Michigan State and Iowa. The spread has actually come down. It was 12.5, as you can see on the screen. But guess what? People actually like Michigan State, and now it's 10.5. What is going on?
This is a weird one.
This is a weird one because Michigan State's offense ranks 111th in rushing offense, 111th in turnover margin, 66 on third downs. They're not doing anything, in my opinion, when it comes to throwing the football. And in the 2 losses, I know these are 2 of Brad's favorite teams, Washington and Maryland, but Michigan State only scored 7 and 9 points on those 2 good defenses. I should say Washington's great defense, Maryland's potentially good defense. Yep. And then now you get Iowa, who we know is a great defense. Obviously, they got demolished last week, 31-0 to Penn State, but Penn State is for real. They could win the Big Ten. So I think this is a great spot for Iowa. So I just checked, but now that since everyone's betting Michigan State, the team total has gone up to 12.5 from 10.5 to 11.5 and now 12.5. And you're giving us plus money still to the under now and the best number yet. Sign me up. Sign me up. I love it.
I saw yours. I saw it and I was like, wow, I'm genuinely shocked that number changed like that. I do lean Iowa here. And for me, it's just Iowa I have as one of the better defenses in the country. I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for Michigan State, and I don't care. They are in trouble. Their efficiency numbers are bad. Their success rate is terrible. This is going to be one of those defensive grind battles. Don't be shocked if Iowa wins this 17-3. Like I wouldn't be even remotely surprised.
Or if they return the favor and beat Michigan State 31-0 and they feel better about last week, like that could happen too. But Iowa scoring 31. That's I'm not going to put my job on the line for that one. What do you got, Eric?
Well, I'll put my job on the line for a couple of these. Kamari, molten lava. Bless this line. 43.5 rushing yards. Okay. 6 carries for 18 yards last week for Mr. Molten. Apparently, LaShawn Williams is supposed to play. He is back. He's also listed. I saw him at 68.5. My God. I'll take it. I'll take both of them. I'll take both the unders. I do not trust Iowa at all. Period. This offense is brutal. Brutal. You can't trust them. You have to go under whenever you get the opportunity, especially in this. Like, what? They can't run the ball at all? They were brutal against, Penn State. We saw him 6 carries, 18 yards. LaShawn Williams is back. Just an easy call with a split backfield and a completely inept offense. Goodbye, Brian Ferentz. Trey Mosley, Michigan State, 32.5 receiving yards against Iowa. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm in. For reference point, last 2 games for Mr. Mosley, 2 catches, 13 yards against Maryland in a heavy game script where they'd be throwing since they were down. They lost 31-9, and they were down the whole game. Previous game, you don't get a more heavy pass script in all of college football until like when you're playing Washington. 41-7 thrashing at the hands of Washington. They're throwing every time down. He catches 3 passes for 21 yards. I mean, the only time he's really popped all year is he caught 5 targets for 84 yards against Richmond. So if we're going to go with the FCS baseline and we're looking at him against Maryland, Washington, not a couple of particularly intimidating defenses. Now they're going up against Iowa in a game that's going to be I would think, rock fight potential here. Oh, boy. 32.5 under Trey Mosley. Gimme.
I'm going to I know this is a college football podcast, but I'm gonna give out a live bet for anybody who's listening. Wolverhampton versus Manchester City. I'm going to take Manchester City minus 5.5 corners at minus 170. It's juicy. But
cornerbacks in soccer, there are cornerbacks.
But that should just anybody who's watching and you want a little action while the action's going on. And another little bit of action, make sure you check out NBC Sports YouTube short section to see myself, Vaughn, and Eric start in our new Betting Big segments where we break down our favorite Big Ten and Pac-12 plays every week all season long. Let's get into the best bets. This best bet that I have, the line all season, every week has been going against my bet, and I feel like I have won every time except one. I'm taking Penn State minus 26.5. The Nittany Lions are elite defensively. The Nittany Lions have a great secondary. The Nittany Lions suffocate you with pressure. What have Northwestern really struggled to do? They have really struggled in first and second down success. What that means is Northwestern is facing a lot of third and longs, and if they go for it late in games, fourth and longs. That's exactly what Penn State does best. I was listening to a interview from Brent Venables, and he talked about how early down success, offense and defense, really can determine how successful a team is in the game. And that was probably one of the main reasons I bet this. It's my favorite bet of the weekend. Even if it loses, even if they get a backdoor gross cover, I don't care because I just have to trust that one of the better defensive-minded coaches in college football is using that kind of metric to determine how well a team performs, and it's lopsided in this game.
No, I like that call a lot. I think Penn State, I'm pretty sure they've covered 70% over the last 3 years when they're laying 14 or more points. And they cover majority of those games by, I think it was 22 points per game. So I do think this is a number that's very hittable for them. If I'm betting, I am betting this game, but we'll talk about that a little later in depth here. But I like your look because our plays actually correlate, Brad, which is a good sign for the both of us. And for everyone that's been watching this show for the 5th week now, you already know what it is today.
Yeah.
We are going under on Nebraska's team total against Michigan. The Wolverines continue to pay any bill they can for us, whether it's a phone bill, it's a student loan bill, it doesn't matter. This defense is for real. 5.3 points per game, only allowed 2 touchdowns through 4 games. You look at Nebraska and their 2 losses this year. They lost to Minnesota and Colorado. They scored 10 and 14 points on those 2 teams. Not to mention, they are ranking 119th out of 133 teams in turnover margin at -5. All right, so I know they're at home. They now have a mobile quarterback that's going to help them. Some people are saying, all right, let's relax. They just beat Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech, and they needed 21 points in the 4th quarter of each of those games to pull away. Michigan, have fun today. If you're in the cornfields of Nebraska, you'll be well fed before and after the game. Best bet, under 10.5, down to 9.5. What do you got, Eric?
Well, I'm very excited about this best bet. I've been waiting for this moment all week because we have got just a perfect storm here. Tyler Shuck, quarterback for Texas Tech, got injured because that's what he does. 2021 collarbone, 2022 collarbone. This year, fibula. He's gone again. Once again, Baron Morton rides in to the rescue. And the problem is with this line is, one, it's Zach Kittley, notorious offensive coordinator for Western Kentucky who blew up Bailey Zappi. And we are playing Houston here for Texas Tech. And Houston plays at the 23rd quickest pace in the country and is an absolute dumpster fire when it comes to defense. You simply cannot sit here and trust this team. 115th against the rush, 95th against the pass, 97th in EPA per play, 96th in success rate, et cetera, et cetera. And with Baron Morton taken in, he already started all of last year, kind of oscillated between him and Houston QB Donovan Smith, but now it's all his show. Smith transferred because he knows Baron Morton used third and line. He doesn't run like Shuck did. Okay. So with Morton and Shuck both combined throwing for more than 300 yards in 3 or 4 games this year. Last week, it comes in against West Virginia and was obviously thrown into the wolves after an injury. He'll be right this week. This is a heavy, quick, fast game. There's going to be as quickly paced as any game on the slate because Texas Tech is second in pace. I am all about this over 233.5 passing yards. If they had a ladder, I would recommend it. I have not seen an alt line for it, though. I love it. If this was Tyler Shuck right now, it was 233.5. Like it would probably be 285.5. I feel like the market is reacting to just the uncertainty of not having seen him start before. I'm not worried about that at all. Give me the over.
What would you play that to? Because I think I saw it.
Is it 241 now? I've seen it 241. Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Up to like 245. It's like a 245 a cutoff.
Yeah, I think he goes for 280. I mean, I don't see how he throws around 280. I would ladder the hell out of this.
That's fair.
I could.
That's fair. Wow. Let's kick it over into our best bets segment. Oh, excuse me.
That was our best bet.
Sorry, my mind is all over the place. I'm literally getting messages about the trip that I'm supposed to be on right now, and it's distracting my brain. Pretty much knows I'm supposed to be getting ready to go to Chicago. I'm supposed to be in Chicago right now, but instead I wanted to hang out with my favorite people. No, we had some flight issues. But speaking of which, I'm going chalk here, and I am taking Maryland money line. I also took them minus 14.5. Indiana versus Maryland, we know it's a typical shootout here. But when we look at, let's just talk about what we are seeing. We're seeing a Maryland team who has a top 10 offense and offensive success rate. They're running the ball well, not like great because that's not really their MO, but they're passing the ball tremendously. Talia Tagovailoa is playing really well, really efficient. Defensively is where I am really impressed. If we look at the numbers, they're about 50th in defensive success rate, which some people might say that's terrible. That's not a good team. But you have to remember, this is a Maryland team that was 110th in defensive success rate last season. Now they're going against the Indiana team, and these numbers are off the top of my head, but they're so bad I could say any number and it would make sense. Against the Indiana team who's like 110th in offensive success rate, 115th in defensive success rate, 100 in EPA on offense, 100 and some on EPA per play on defense. It's basically really lopsided. It would take a lot for Indiana for me to be on Indiana in any way, shape, or form. So I like Maryland to win. I also like to cover the 14. I know people are going to say it's 14.5 now. I'm good with that as well.
Yeah, I like that play. I almost went back with UMass here again this week since they lost an OT. And we got to put a slight push and a payout, though, on our People's Parlay last week. But it was my fault we lost. So like Brad, I'm playing it safe. I took Iowa's money line. Everything you just said negatively about Indiana, I could pretty much say the same thing about Michigan State. But yes. I'd rather just pass off to Eric since I'm taking a 10-point favorite to win outright. If I lose, I suck.
I'll keep this nice and simple for you guys. I mean, as Brad knows, he likes seeing this Alabama line. And it's not first half. It's the whole game is 14.5. I apologize if I put that on the sheet. But if we we talked about LSU and how their porous defense has had trouble, against the quality opponents. They didn't have any trouble against Mississippi State. They destroyed Mississippi State. It was like 42-14, I want to say. And even one of those touchdowns was kind of, wonky. Now they're up there against Alabama and a scorned Nick Saban who has something to prove after losing to Texas. And I know you've heard the interviews. This is Warpath Saban.
Yes.
I feel bad for Mississippi State with Warpath Saban. I think you're going to get a good old beating today. Give me Alabama. I'm laying.
I like that. Mississippi State hasn't beat Alabama since I felt like I was in diapers. This is the game I normally go to every year. I skipped it this year just because I thought it was going to be an absolute bloodbath, and I wanted to go to a different Alabama game. But let's talk about the other football. If you're looking for NFL betting content, then you have the Dream Duo right in front of you. Vaughn and myself have you covered with spreads, picks, players, props all season long on NBCSports.com and on our X accounts at Mr. Brad Thomas and V Money Sports. Look out every Saturday for the same game parlay. Oh my God, Jason K. Wow. They listed Shedeur Sanders at 10.5 rush yards.
I mean, he's not going to get sacked.
I have another best bet.
No way.
Boy, Jason K. Oh my gosh. Get my phone. Where's my phone?
Oh my God. Yeah, we're literally running to do this.
Red alert.
I'm going to skip over Indiana for sake of time since we've already talked about that one. Let's go to Penn State at Northwestern. I gave my take. You get yours, Vaughn.
Yeah. So, I'll take over. You guys get your bets in. I'll take over the capping right now. For this game, so Brad likes Penn State minus 26.5. I like Northwestern's team total under 9.5. It's pretty much 9.5 every sports book right now. If you shop around, you could get this about plus 102, plus 105. So you're getting plus money value there. Man, Northwestern's only scored 6 or 7 points in 3 of the last 4 meetings with Penn State. The 2 losses for Northwestern this year, they scored 7 at Rutgers, 14 at Duke, and they've been sacked 11 times in 4 games. We know Penn State is for real. They get after the quarterback, top 20 in sacks, and they're also top 25 interceptions. So Northwestern will struggle at home or not. They will not score 10 points in my opinion. So I'm taking team total under 9.5. Eric, did you get your bet in?
We got to get our plays in, so I'll handle that later. Bryce Kurtz, he got me last week. He got me big. But here's the thing. That was Minnesota. Minnesota, we now know, with that win against Nebraska, not looking so great. That was a squeaker. Going out there, losing in spectacular fashion, up 21 with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And they let this Northwestern team go out there and Ben Bryant use them for kindling. Unbelievable. Bryce Kurtz, 200 yards. But now they went a bag. They bumped his line from 35 last week to 45 based on that outlier of a performance. Anytime I see an outlier, especially for receivers like this, I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going the other way hard against an elite Penn State defense. Give me the under for Bryce Kurtz. I'm sorry it said Bruce Kurtz there, obviously, but it's Bryce. And unlike Colonel Kurtz for Apocalypse Now, I don't think we're going to have any particular success in the jungle that is known as the Penn State defense.
I'll quickly say, too, if you guys haven't heard how Penn State was preparing for this game, they played no music during practice all week just to prepare for a quieter atmosphere at Northwestern. Oh, burned. Absolutely burned. Penn State will roll.
All right, let's get to the next game. We're going to skip over Maryland. I already talked about that. Washington, this line's up to 19.5 at Arizona. I tweeted this out a long time ago. And I'm taking Washington. I will play it to minus 20 if you have to. I had played to minus 18.5. So maybe pass. That was my initial inclination. It's just a really good Washington. I didn't see the news was on Delora, but I got a text earlier in the week, and they said that he is likely not to play. That's all I needed to hear. I liked them at this number. I was going to play both sides. The number didn't get big enough for me. Like, the number was not large enough for me to go play both sides. I wanted to get to 21. It didn't get through that number. Maybe we might get a little late steam. But I'm on Washington minus 17. Play it to, if you want to. This is a game where if you want to tease down, I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm going to go over it. Speaking of this, actually, just a quick aside. I had this in my early lines column that came in on Tuesday morning. Jaden Delora equals bad news. And I don't think you can set this high enough. Look what Washington's been doing. Everybody has been getting it. Unfortunately, Arizona's going to get it too. Going over to Florida at Kentucky. Montrell Johnson. This is how we do it, as the song goes. That's Montrell Jordan, but hey, I'm going to repurpose it. Forgive me. Look at the history of what he's done over the course of this season and into last season. This is a straight split backfield. Trevor Etienne, obviously Travis's brother, has clearly taken hold of what I appear to be the number one role. They clearly think he's the best back, but they're still lining Montrell Johnson at 54.5 because of the 2-back system that Billy Napier utilizes, right? We're playing at Kentucky here, okay? Stalwart run defense. Look at Montrell Johnson this year in his 4 games. McNeese State, a 49-7 drubbing. He has 119 and 2 touchdowns. UNC Charlotte, 16 carries, 63 yards last week, 0 touchdowns, okay? But against the 2 Power 5 opponents, Utah, 3 carries, 6 yards. Tennessee, 2 weeks ago, 12 carries, 23 yards. Now we're playing Kentucky. No, says Mutombo, under 54.5.
I absolutely love that because that coincides with a lot of reasons why I like Kentucky to win that game. Now, I'm about to tell you guys that something's really crazy that I found during my research. I may have forgot this, as I do probably every year, but at one point between 1987 and 2017, Florida beat Kentucky 31 straight times. 31 straight times.
Wow.
And in the last 5 meetings, Kentucky has now won 3 of them. And they've won the last 2, 26-16 and 20-13. Is Kentucky going to go on a 31-game win streak against them? I don't think so. But I think they're going to win a third one. Florida is really struggling with explosiveness, which Eric kind of brought up there. If they're not playing a bad team, they look explosive. With Graham Mertz at quarterback, they're just not that way. And the defense is ranked dead last in explosiveness so far. So I think Kentucky is going to look a lot better in this game. I like the quarterback situation for them too with Devin Leary. I think Mark Stoops is pretty good against the spread. 9-4 is a small home favorite. So I like Kentucky on the money line to win outright here and to kind of start turning the series around a little bit against Florida.
I like that. I hope Kentucky's undefeated and Georgia's undefeated for when I'm going to be on the field in Athens next week. Fingers crossed, no flight trouble. But let's go to the next game. Illinois at Purdue. Purdue, a 1-point favorite. Total set at 53.5. I took Purdue at -1. This line's gone back and forth. It's just a half unit play for me. I think the teams are pretty even. I'm giving the home field advantage edge to Purdue. Illinois, they hung their hats on how great they were defensively. Walters left, now coaching Purdue. I think that he's going to be able to exploit that team a little bit more. But my favorite bet was Hudson Card. Hudson Card over 10.5 rushing yards from this game. This is one that I gave out earlier in the week. Its number is like funny because it, didn't move, which I think it's a pretty fair line. But the reason I'm playing it, and also the reason Eric's probably playing his, I like his as well. Quarterbacks just go over rushing on Illinois. Illinois, one of the lowest pressure rates in college football, averaging just 1.2 sacks per contest. Hudson Card's gone over this in every game that he's played, except for against Penn State. Obviously, a really talented defense there. Eric, kick it to yours because I love yours as well.
Yeah, I love your play. I was going to type in Hudson Card as well, and I looked up and I saw yours when we were putting through the sheet. I was like, all right, I'm going to let Brad handle this one. No problem, because I have another one. And it's where, the QB rushing situations here, we both really like. Yes. And as, we alluded to one game that Brad and I were at last week, there was another game we were at the night before. We were actually in West Lafayette for Purdue versus Wisconsin. And what happened in that game? Well, we were treated to Tanner Mordecai, option quarterback. Option quarterback, Tanner Mordecai. I didn't think I'd live to see that. I have, with my own 2 eyes in person. So given the performance we saw, where they absolutely ran all over Purdue. And then the week beforehand, Syracuse did the exact same thing. It's like Wisconsin just watched literally the blueprint that was laid out by Garrett Schrader and company, and they did the same thing. Why would Illinois do anything different here? Why would, and you got Altmaier, who has gone over 70 yards twice, 2 times this year. It wasn't really in the cards last week. But look, this is what you do against Purdue. It's very hard for me to see any other way that this goes other than making sure they keep the pressure on that defense on the ground, utilizing those run lanes and, the run fakes. And when it's time to go, Altmaier is going to go. This is a very soft defensive front, and I think it's 3 weeks in a row that I see Purdue cashes quarterback over rushings.
Yeah, I like that take a lot. Luke Altmaier rushing yards and Tanner Mordecai running options at Wisconsin. I mean, this is only week 5.
Luke Illinois already run a lot of RPOs. So I saw Eric put that play out. I was like, I like it. Next game, USC -21.5 point favorite. This is the 12 o'clock game versus Colorado. Total set at 72.5. I'll be quick. I've just been talking a lot of trash and about how USC is going to run it up in this game. I took USC -21.5. I took their team total over 48. I think the hook is important in this game. As much as Deion Sanders has been talking, the good teams are going to want to beat down them. So, I think even if this is close, they continue to score. I think they score 50. Colorado will have to put up their own here. But those are my plays for this, both half unit each.
Bang. I'll go with Patrick Smith against Mizzou. Hey, the guy beat me 2 weeks ago on a 40-yard run. He'd been doing absolutely nothing up until that point, and I'm still scorned, okay? Going back to 44.5 rushing yards. We've already seen Cedric Alexander take a bigger share, and they're going up against the Missouri defense that is legit. This is the number 23 ranked team in the nation. I don't have any reservations about this. This is like another pseudo best bet, and I got it everywhere. You should do the same.
I like
Go ahead
that
and give
a
us
lot.
one of your picks, Vaughn.
I actually am out of plays for this show. This is my lightest week of all. And it honestly, if you guys couldn't tell, which I doubt anyone could tell watching the show, I have strep throat. So I have been.
You've been killing it, dude.
I have been feeling terrible all week. But good thing I did all my picks before the weekend. So I'll just recap my picks and then make comments on your guys's. But Nebraska team total under 10.5 against Michigan tonight is the best bet. Northwestern team total under 9.5 against Penn State at noon. Michigan State team total under 12.5 or 11.5 on NBC and Peacock tonight. And then we're going Kentucky money line and Duke plus 5.5 versus Brad for some pizza next weekend.
All right, Brad.
Show's yours, gentlemen.
Take it away. You go. Rapid fire. Me, you.
Yeah. I'll go. My next one, Syracuse money line sprinkle plus 210. I just didn't think Syracuse should be a 7-point favorite. I prefer not to get into this close battle of taking the spread. So I'd rather just sprinkle the money on there, kind of like what you did with your with the Jalen Daniels rushing yards. Like I think if this is a close game, Cuse win it, and I don't want to get into any of the funny business.
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm
going to go with a couple of random wideouts here. I want to pop in Deontay Vines, wide receiver, Iowa. This guy's been listed every week, and I'm still trying to figure out why under 19.5 yards. He hasn't smelled it. He hasn't come anywhere near it. He barely plays. They don't throw the ball, and he gets maybe a target or two a game. I'm going to play the odds here. Trond, and you know, I'm going to get this right. Trond, Trond, not like Tron, the movie from the 80s. Grizel, what a name. Cal, under 39.5 passing yards. Mr. Grizel, I barely know who he is. That's always a good indicator for an under. And, you know, got 3 targets, caught 1 for 13 yards last game in a game that had the mother of all pass scripts against Washington that put up 60 points on them. So if they're throwing to the 10th power that game, that's not going to kind of be the same script this week. I don't think it's possible to. So I'm going to go with those 2 unders.
That's all my plays. So you can go ahead and just rattle off yours. And also anybody who's watching, you can ask your questions now. Also, we are covering in the live bet that I gave out. It's only a minute, 2 minutes left to go. So fingers crossed that we continue to cover.
Let's get it.
Anaya Smith, Texas A&M. Last week, we know Connor Wegman hurt. Could be the whole season. In comes Max Johnson. Once Max Johnson comes in, he proceeds to absolutely pound Anaya Smith in the middle of the field because Max Johnson cannot throw to the boundary. So he got like in teens in terms of targets. It was like the revival for Anaya Smith. I think just with the comfort level you see out of Max Johnson with him and his need to kind of keep the ball in front of where he can see, I think you're going to see a similar script. Donovan Edwards, Michigan, at Nebraska, 16.5 receiving yards. Do I have to explain this? Good God. I mean, he's one of the best receiving backs in the country. They're going to line it at 16. I understand that, you know, Nebraska runs the ball and is slow in terms of pace, but man, you're asking for it here. And then last, Cartavius Norton. I don't know if I put that in. My gosh. Mover of the week, Cartavius Norton. Opened at 64.5. Nuclear. Got smashed down to 45.5 rushing yards, where it is now. Might even be down to 40.5. He's just coming back. He barely touched the ball last week. You already, you know, I mean, he touched the ball, but you have his RB2 right behind him, Bailey. He's back this week too. So you have a split rushing situation against Brent Venables, his defense, year 2. And Oklahoma has been smashing teams. I think they're going to have to throw. So once that gets into a pass script, I don't think you're going to see Cartavius Norton get anywhere near this against this defense. Going to go with that. And lastly, I'm going to stick with the Oklahoma game. Jaleel Farouk, a guy who I was really high on earlier in the season because of his usage, because he got a lot of like the jet sweeps. They're very creative in terms of last year, how they used him. He has not been getting the reps. I mean, plain and simple. You're seeing Antrell Anthony. He's been excellent, you know, coming over from Michigan, really has acclimated well. And then also freshman Nick Alexander. doing his thing. Every time he gets a target, he cashes it in. He's only got like 10. He's got 8 receptions. He's been blowing up. So given the fact that I'm not seeing him on the field, I watched that game closely last week because I had his over. I got lucky with it. I just don't think he gets the volume here. So I'm going to go under on Jaleel Farouk as well.
Yeah, I think that's sharp capping right there.
That's all I got.
Go ahead, Brad.
Someone asked if you have any other plays in the A&M game, just real quick. Sorry.
Do I have other plays in the A&M game? Not at the moment. That was the one I really liked.
You got a lot of plays today, Eric. Back to two straight weeks of like 15 plays or something, right?
Well, dude, Vaughn and I were a little under the weather this week.
Yeah.
So I had to. I got the juice today, but man, if you saw me 2 days ago, I didn't have much to offer. So I wanted to save it for the show to give you a little something.
That sounds good. I spent a lot of my time napping instead of extra capping.
What do you think about Brendan Rice's over? I thought it was a low. What was it, 53 or something? What do you think of that number?
I like Brendan Rice. Obviously, I have him in myriad C2C and college fantasy football leagues. If anything, it's just a case of, who's it going to be this week? I do like it. Now that you mention it, I kind of like Caleb to go under 353.5. And I do like him to go under. I think he goes under. That is a bomb. And if you look at Colorado, what the composition of their defense is, are they good? No, not at all. But they get marched on. And that's why we saw Marshawn Lloyd go from 86, up into the 90s now. I think he was 83 in the 90s, is because everyone's looking at that and saying, okay, Colorado is objectively on the line. That's the last thing to come, is that defensive line. Big bodies out there when you play in the transfer portal role. You can get skilled, but the big dudes, they don't have them yet. And they got gashed by Oregon last week. I mean, terribly exposed. It controlled the clock, controlled the entire flow of the game, and they're getting blown off the ball. I think USC is going to be able to do that. Once they get up, they're going to want to slow it down. It's going to make it tough to get to that 353.
Yeah, much like Nick's number. Nick should have hit his number. I still will hold true to that.
They just slowed it down. They
slowed it down to a standstill, basically. Yeah,
which is what they should do.
Any other plays before we let anyone go? I think that was the only one I wanted to ask you about, because I'm going to play that for. I'm not playing it for much for anybody wondering. I'm going to play it probably for half a unit. Maybe I'm playing it for 0.6 units.
Yeah, or you can, if you're in the parlay markets, you can have a little fun. Toss that in, with Morton and Morton and Norton. Look at that. And
maybe he's up to 60 now, so
trifecta. Oh, really?
Brad, should we give out an NFL play or something we like before we get out of here?
Let's give out an NFL play.
I was going to say, or do we do rapid fire on some games today?
Do an NFL play that you like, and I'll do one too.
All right. I am going. Well, if the Bucs are not without 4 defensive starters tomorrow, please lock in the under 40 in Bucs versus Saints. That game to me is going to be super ugly. It's gone under 5 of the last 6 times, and I know we don't have to talk referee stats, but the refs in that game call more offensive holding penalties than anyone else, and those 2 defenses also cause more offensive holdings than anybody else. So a lot of stops. So I like the Saints and Bucs under if all the stars on the Bucs are in on defense.
Yeah, my favorite play is going to be Jamar Chase over 81.5. One of the worst one of the worst receiving defenses are the Titans. They allowed Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper both to hit this number. They also allowed 2 80-plus receivers in one game. It's just based because they sell it to stop the run, and I think the game's gonna be close. We might actually see the Bengals playing from behind. Eric, do your money line sprinkles, and then I'll send everyone off.
Yeah, along the line of the Alabama one, I should have got this in before. Jalen Milroe was listed at 75-plus rushing yards at plus 500. Wow.
What is that on?
Woo! We'll go full Ric Flair on that one. I enjoy that. I had seen that on DK, so right before Showtime when I was putting together the sheet, and it's like, look, I mean, I think 50 is extremely achievable and reasonable. Again, this is Mississippi State. I'm not intimidated by them at all defensively. No offense, Zach Armstead, but plus 500, 75 rushing yards, man, I think that's well in the realm of possibility. I mean, imagine you go and you toss that on a parlay deal. or anything in that. I really like it. I like that plus 500. That's 5-1.
That's really nice.
Why not?
I think I'm going to play that.
Your next ladder pick is a sleeper for Heisman. I don't know how Brad feels about it since he's got the co-favorite right now, but Dylan Gabriel is catching some people's eyes right now.
Yeah, the Archangel, Dylan Gabriel. There's a little Marvel universe, nod for you guys who are fans of the comics. So, yeah, Dylan Gabriel. You look at how he's played. Look at last game. He comes out there and, I think he went 323 or so. He had the over on him. He's lined at 253. I think that's just too low. Look at and you can look at Iowa. They threw 38 passes last week, Iowa, with Rocco Becht because they were behind and they had to. Once they start doing that, you know what I mean? It's like it speeds it up. The pace, it quickens up. So it puts pressure on them. I think you're going to see Gabriel put some numbers on the board. 300 yards is plus 170. 325 is plus 330. That is well within the realm of possibility here against this Iowa State team that has been throwing more than I think people realize. So I'll go with that one too. But I think if I'm going with my number one sprinkle is Milrow. I mean, that's a sprinkle.
Jalen Milrow. I gotta lock that one in, man. Plus 500. He's due for one of those 80 or 70-yard running games.
He's always running. It's just a matter of the sacks. We'll bring him back. But man, he can break one. I mean, he's a freak. I think it's very possible.
He's a stud athlete. Well, guys, that was fun. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. See you guys next week. For Vaughn Dalzell, Eric Froton, I'm Brad Thomas. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the sweats. Take care.